Greetings and salutations, friends, and welcome back to another Sargon-less installment of the Stamford Bridge. As you see, Sargon is a creature of habit. Once you've hammered into him that he's supposed to be at a certain location at a certain time, you can always rely on Sargaruni to show up. However, if you introduce any fluctuations to that, in other schedules, for example, he will swiftly forget other commitments and predicaments. Although, to be fair, this time it wasn't even really Sargon's fault. Although I will still blame him because, well, that's what we do around here. We blame Sargon for things. And again, the Saxons have been defeated by their calendar on many occasions. It's the reason why they were under Norman rule to begin with, because they were too picky about when they needed to get the harvest in. Silly, silly Saxons. Then again, I think Norman rule worked out for the better for the Saxons in the end, so I suppose they can't complain too much, really. Now then, it's 2025, chat, and fascism is still strong. Somehow. Oh. Ash is sneezing. We have somehow, we have dedicated over a decade now explicitly to left-wing values in entertainment, in politics, in gaming, music, movies. Literally anything and everything has been explicitly dominated by the left wing to the point where it has simply just become the cultural waters in which we swim. And yet, still, the Nazis are everywhere. I feel like this is yet another one of those occasions where the demand for fascism simply outstrips the actual supply of it, but oh well, details. So, the thing we have here is Games Transformed 2025. What can the left learn from Gamergate? Fuck, okay. We're starting strong. It's not just fascism on the rise, it's Gamergate. Listen, guys, 2016 might have been like 9 years ago at this point, but it's still very important we bring it up on occasion. There needs to be, at some point, we gotta do like a deep dive study on the not necessarily even on the culture, but the emotional impact that Gamergate had on the left wing in general. Like the trauma that Gamergate inflicted on the progressive left wing. Because it's been a while at this point, and it's still the boogeyman. It's still the thing brought up a decade after its finish. It is still the example. It is still oh my god, look there! Gamergate! Gamergate lost. Okay? Gamergate ended like 10 years ago without having achieved its objective because nobody who was in Gamergate had the faintest clue what they were up against. Nobody who was participating in Oh, holy shit. Like, one of the original topics of Gamergate was atheism. Okay? Atheism. That's how long ago this was. We were having debates with creationists. All right? This was so long ago, before we had any idea about anything else. I remember Sargon talking about cultural Marxism like 10 years ago, and him being very hesitant about it. Like, you know, I don't know if we can call this cultural Marxism, but you know, I found this Wikipedia article, and a lot of this sounds awfully similar to what we're seeing. It's just, you know, it's just a little bit weird. We had no idea. And that is why Gamergate, in the end, failed to stop the left. It did provide a wonderful growth bed for future resistance against progressivism, absolutely. And it was a vital stepping stone, to actually inform us of what we were up against. But to continuously pull this up as some sort of existential dread moment, it really hammers home the psychological damage that it did to the left, who had been, in essence, unopposed for 10, 20 years preceding this, simply used to getting anything and whatever they pointed at, only advancing, only winning, and never even being questioned as to where all of this would eventually lead us. But anyway, how do we build anti-fascist communities that bite back? Can we turn anger away from minorities and towards the bosses and shareholders wrecking the industry for profit? Oh God, I wish they were. Okay. We're just going to do a little bit of a random topics, chatting with Arch Day today, in essence, in Sargon us away, but I want to, okay, so this is Ubisoft's 2024-2025 earnings figures and report, right? Including Assassin's Creed Shadows. Ubisoft is not a very fascist company. It really is. It is a very progressive company. It is an avowedly progressive company. It is an explicitly progressive company ran by explicitly progressive people for explicitly progressive purposes. Minus 82.6 million euros. I fucking wish they were. I wish they were ruining the industry for profit. I fucking wish they were running the industry into the ground for the bottom line. At least then we'd get games that sell. If this right here is what ruinous capitalism looks like, then I really think Ubisoft needs to have a nice, long, hard look at their priorities again.
Trick or treat. Can I
Goddamn
smell your
ridiculous.
feet?
My article window is placed slightly incorrectly. It's the when did I change the size of that? There we go. Look. This is what rampant, ruinous capitalism looks like. Oh, Vladimir, sorry, I missed you there. As Creed sales numbers dropped. PS 1.7 million, 367 Xbox, unknown but less than Steam. Generous estimate 2.4 million total. Ubisoft stock down 20%. And Curry. And MW Balls. The reason why leftists don't approve of white South Africans leaving their country is quite simple. In South Africa, whites are an oppressed and abused minority, which is the exact situation leftists desire for every Western nations. Yeah, no, like I said in my video, the South Africans know the end of the progressive playbook. They've seen it, they've lived it, they are unlikely to choose it again, unsurprisingly. Very, 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 very unlikely to choose it again. But yeah, no. It's not the bosses and the shareholders wrecking the industry. It is the employees wrecking the industry. It's the fact that Ubisoft simply employ too many goddamn people. Okay, they've been trying to cut money from Ubisoft. They'd cut 100 million euros and they're still 82 million in the red. They need to cut another 100 million euros to even get a profit. And they reported later on here that I think they'd shed like 1,000 employees over the course of this reporting year, and they still had like 17,000. It's absurd. Oh, there we go, yeah. The group's total headcount stood at 17,782 people at the end of March 2025. 17,782
Trick or
fucking
treat.
employees.
Sell your feet.
Holy shit. Operating at 100 million euros deficit. And it ain't the bosses, it ain't the shareholders that's ruining this. And that is after they let 1,230 people go. And a decrease of 3,000 since September 2022. I dread to think how many of these 17,000 people actually work for a living or do something that actually earns a profit for the company rather than simply just collecting a paycheck at the end of every single day. Charles the Beagle, you probably don't care, but to let you know, the Univision of all things has banned all pride flags from being... Really? Really? The Eurovision song... I need to... Okay, Eurovision. Eurovision bans pride flag. Oh, okay, well, only partially. Okay. Right, so they ban pride flags for performers, but lift the restriction for spectators. So the crowd can still bring it, but the performers can't. Of course, like, this is all the fucking progressives, too. Non-binary Eurovision winner, Nemo. What? That, holy, wow, that, my, holy moly. That's a horror monster if I've ever seen one, but okay. Oh, that's a little bit too large. Condemns pride flag ban. I imagine. Goodness gracious, that man's... I'm sorry, chat. I'm just a little bit obsessed with the... Right, okay, never mind. Well, that's certainly unusual and weird, but a step in the right direction for Eurovision, honestly, there.
Heresy's the question. Fire is the
Good
answer.
on you, Eurovision. That's the first and only time I imagine I'll ever be praising you. Rubleg623 here, Lord Art. I watched The Empire of Dust after your video yesterday. It made me sympathize with the Chinese. I know. There is no genuine motivation and ambition shown by the Congolese. It genuinely hurts. I know. Ah. So, as there's another little recommendation here. Empire of Dust. So, Empire of Dust is where this meme comes from. It is also tiresome. It's a picture of this Chinese guy right here who is working for a Chinese construction company that has been sent to Africa in order to help the locals. Specifically, they are to repair and maintain a road that was built by the original European colonizers of the area, like 100+ years ago. Like, this road is absolutely positively ancient, and it's in a state of absolute abject disrepair. And the Chinese are going to rebuild it, maintain it, and then eventually teach the Africans how to do it themselves. And the entire movie is just about the Chinese trying to get the Africans to provide them with gravel. Just crushed up rocks, and it's just days of them trying to get gravel. And they just can't. The local Africans just won't cooperate. They'll say, oh, yeah. We'll get you your gravel. Of course we'll get you your gravel. Then the Chinese show up with their trucks. There's no gravel. Fuck, okay. You've got the machinery right here. Can't you just crush the rocks? The rocks are right there. No. We gotta wait for our boss. Oh, Jesus. So they stand out in the sun waiting for an hour until the boss arrives. And the boss is like, well, I don't know. I don't know if I can give you your gravel right now. We're going to have to talk about it tomorrow. So they talk to him tomorrow, and he's like, I don't know, Chinese people, I don't trust you. I think you'll cut me out of the profits of this road. We just need gravel. We're gonna need more gravel. We're gonna need continuous streams of gravel. It's like, oh, I don't know. 3 days of this. It is an upsetting movie. It is a genuinely upsetting fucking movie. It is genuinely upset. And it's not just this country. This is across the entirety of Africa. See if I can find one of Ah, yes, here we go. So this has become an absolutely famous one, right? This is the Sebara Bridge, I believe. This was built by the Portuguese in the 17th century, okay? The locals never maintained it. The locals eventually wore it down until it was, crumbling and destroyed. The locals never rebuilt it. Of course, they themselves don't know even how to rebuild it, but they never even were like, okay, hey, Portuguese people, could you come rebuild our bridge? No, it remains broken forever. Not just because they don't know how to fix it, but because they don't want to fix it. They're not interested. They don't care. They don't give a shit. They don't want to. And again, Empire of Dust really, really hammers that point home, that it isn't even a lack of capability. It isn't even incompetence or lack of technological know-how. It is simply just how they think, how they are. Empire of Dust refers to the fact that the ruins of colonial civilization, the locals are just living in it. They are living in an empire built by other people hundreds of years ago, and they have no knowledge or interest in maintaining it as it crumbles around them. It's fucking absurd. It is genuinely insane. It reminds me, it's genuinely Dark Souls-esque. Where you look around at the ruins of Lordaeron, and you're like, oh my god, how did they build this? The incredible powers of the ancients. God. It's so ridiculous. Again, Empire of Dust, it's available for free on YouTube. Watch it. It is a slow, painful fucking watch. It is a genuinely frustrating watch, but you need to watch it. You have to watch it. Just so you can see how bad it actually is. It will open your eyes, I guarantee it. Anyways, slight aside, numero dos. Vulture 1066, Arch, you think 17th of May will have any pride flags? Of course it will. There's already people like, yes, I will flaunt this moratorium against, I guess, the forbidding of pride flags, because children need to feel safe in our schools. They need to understand they will be indoctrinated into progressivism. We will gender change your 7-year-old, no matter what the government says about it. Amusingly, it's not legal to sell 17th of May pins with the Christian cross on it, amusingly enough. Mark Detained, Black Power, true power is projected from the shadows. It isn't the CEO, it's HR. Don't be the figurehead that takes the blame, be the advisor. Yep, absolutely. Again, it's to return to this topic and smashing the Fash, the bosses and the shareholders of Ubisoft. I don't know how to put this to you, but they're not fascists. They're French fucking Canadians. It ain't their fault. It simply just ain't their fault. Simple as. So there was a video produced for this with the title "Everything's Fucked," and it does make me rather happy to see my opposition sad. I've always enjoyed that. Made by Chris Bratz here. Now, Chris has, of course, protected his Twitter account because he said stupid shit on the internet. And it tends to upset people. I know. Weird. Surprising. Never seen that before. But he's associated with People Make Games, as you can see him right here, which is a much, much, much larger channel. Because originally, I looked at this and thought to myself, okay, you know, some random dude who's doing this for a Twitter account with like 700 followers and a YouTube channel with like 500 people. Okay, you know what? I'm not going to pick on him, even if he's being retarded, because it just feels mean. But no, he's associated with much larger people, and he uses this platform directly, as he had it in the bio. Oh, yeah, there we go. One of the people who makes People Make Games. There you go. He is still on Blue Sky, where we have Games Transformed, and Chris Bratz, as of course, the anti-conservative pro-pedophilia platform tends to be a haunt for these people. I don't know why. It's very weird. And they do have a tiny little Twitter account for this as well, as the initiative itself appears to be, well, deeply unpopular, frankly. But what I find interesting about Chris Bratz here is on a People Makes Games video, how to fix the games industry. So this kind of created the impetus for this here, Games Transformed and Smash the Fash, right? And I just want to point out the titles of the little areas at the bottom here. So we have why this video is a bit different. So, okay, why am I talking about this? Why are we talking about communism on People Makes Games? Well, it's because I have become a communist. As the first area is, it's 2024, and Chris feels radicalized. Followed with, this is a class struggle. We can't ask for change. So, class struggle, we cannot ask for change. Smash the Fash. All of the bosses and shareholders are evil. I don't know what he was before, but this is absolutely, unequivocally, the point where Chris Bratz is just like, yep, I'm a communist now. I have decided to embrace this. This is my belief structure. I genuinely believe that we are in a class struggle in 2025 in England, and we cannot ask for change. We have to take it. Genuine, full communist. And what exactly kind of worldview does that form? I wonder. Who knows? Who knows indeed? So I guess we'll have a brief little look at this as I check the volume as well. Marksman17, if you have time for a quick video, react. Can you watch Feral Historian Warhammer Finding Light in the Grim Dark? Save the new relevance of Warhammer video for when Sargon is here. Also, my little dictator fund. I think I will, yes, because when Sargon isn't here, I'll just do whatever chat wants to have a look at, I imagine. So if chat has further suggestions, chat is free to offer them up. As this will be like the main key central topic, but this won't last the whole thing by any stretch of the imagination. My little dictator fund. Let's add that in there as well. Oh god, I hate how it never lets me fucking... Let's see. Finding light in the grim dark. Right, yeah, we can do that one too. Why not? But first, let's have a look at this one here.
Everything's fucked. Reform are on the rise, Trump has been crowned the God King of America, and across so much of the world, it feels like the far right have been able to very successfully position themselves as this necessary force of change for a broken system.
Which is, of course, absolutely correct. Also, I do love how his eyebrows look like they have little horns on them. It's very evocative of the image that I first see whenever I observe a communist. But he's onto the correct thing there. Yeah, no, reform is on the rise. And here's the thing, too. Reform isn't actually on the rise in the UK as a genuine alternative. Nigel Farage is far too much of a wet blanket to actually institute genuine change. He is, at the end of the day, an establishment politician with establishment political views. Nigel Farage is not the savior of Britain. He is not. The fact that Reform, with basically zero campaigning, has shot up on the polls simply demonstrate that the British people are desperate for anything that even resembles an alternative. They tried the Conservatives. They gave them a massive majority, and the Conservatives demonstrated they too were establishment politicians. So people moved away from them to punish them, which of course brought Labour back in charge again with a minority of the vote. And now people are being squeezed harder than ever as Labour knows, right, we've got to break as much shit as humanly possible in the next 4 years. And then they'll vote in Reform. Reform will fail as well. And in another, 6-7 years' time, we might see an actual alternative in the UK. But yeah, no, if you're from Britain, you've still got a solid, 10 years of suffering ahead of you. I'm sorry. I don't want you to suffer for another 10 years. But you're just kind of fucked. I feel for you. I'm in kind of the same position here in Norway, but it's just how it is. This all takes a very long time.
And the system is broken. That bit's absolutely true.
And who broke it? Who? Okay, I bet I can guarantee you his answer is, of course, the bigwigs. The elites broke it. Inequality.
But the promises made by the likes of Farage or Maloney or Le Pen,
just false. Oh, okay. Well, Farage, yes, I agree. Le Pen, well, she's been convicted now and can't run. The system has taken her out of the running. And Maloney seems to be doing pretty well.
are just false. The great barrier between us and a better world isn't immigrants, it's not trans people, it's not wokeism or wind farms, it's inequality.
There we are. There we are. Why is the system broken? Well, it's inequality, you see. He says in 2025 Britain, where it is considered a hate crime to so much as look at a woman for an extended period of time. And you know what? He is correct. Inequality is the problem. Inequality is the reason for the rise of the far right, as you put it. It absolutely is. There's no question about it. Inequality, as in the British government had to step in to write a law specifically forbidding British courts from instituting a two-tier justice system. An actual, legitimate, codified two-tier justice system where white Britons would face harsher punishments than any other group of people. That is the reason for the rise of the far right.
Trick-or-treat. Can I smell your feet?
Straight up. Absolutely. No question about it. When you have created for decades... In Germany, AfD... The German mainstream parties are attempting to illegalize the opposition. They are attempting to ban the single largest opposition party. They're attempting to ban. In France, Marine Le Pen, the leader of the opposition, is convicted for a crime literally everyone in France has committed in politics and forbidden from running for political office. In England, the government, even Keir Starmer, looked at this. The British barristers or judges going like, okay, we're going to have to artificially advantage women and minorities over white men. And even Keir fucking Starmer, the man famed as two-tier Keir, had to step in and write a law to actively forbid application of a codified two-tier justice system. Yeah. Inequality absolutely is the problem. But that all of that inequality is tied back into the wokeists who have pushed for this, into the immigrants who take advantage of it. Again, you want to talk about inequality? You want to talk about the British person who was expected to work his entire life until he's 70 or 80. What's the pension age in England? Let's see. What's the pension age in England? The current state pension age in the UK is 66. So the average British citizen is expected to work until he is 66 years old to pay for the benefits that a Somali that manages to make it to the shores of England in a rubber dinghy will get for free the moment his feet strike British soil. Yeah. It is absolutely inequality that is the problem here.
It's hate-mongering, and increasingly, it's fascism.
Hello, Elon. Yeah, that was a silly gesture to make, Elon. that was a very silly gesture. You know what? More and more, I'm on Chris Bratt's side. The problem is inequality, and the problem is Elon Musk spurging.
But what does that have to do with games? Well, you saw Gamergate happen, you've seen the vitriol that game developers still receive today if they dare to include stories that are deemed to include too much DEI politics.
Why? Why is that the case? Why is that the case? Is it DEI politics? Or is it the fact that it seems to have ruined every game that it's been included in?
And if you don't know what that sentence means, honestly, consider yourself extremely fortunate. To put it simply, there is a part of game...
Hold on. The person who is for DEI politics is going, I hope you don't know what DEI politics means. They genuinely want you to be ignorant, don't they?
Games culture, our culture that breeds toxicity and anger and resentment. It targets mostly younger men, and once it's lured them in, it places them onto this conveyor belt designed to carry them through more and more extreme viewpoints.
That's weird. Why does it target younger men? How that's odd, isn't it? So we've got DI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, that is worked into games, as you say, from a young age. We've been doing this for years. We've got DEI in government. We've got DEI in politics. We've got DEI in sport. We've got DEI in every single fucking layer of life, which leads to an inequality society, apparently. And yet, only young men appear to be left out. That's strange. It's almost as if the very explicit point of the entire system is to victimize young men. Because you'd think that if everyone was so thoroughly included, those evil fascist hate-mongers wouldn't have anybody to prey upon, would they? Again, this returns us back to the point of adolescence and the Andrew Tate thing, where they go like, oh, those young boys that are all lured in by Andrew Tate and his vile manosphere influences. Why is that the case? Why is there no other alternative? Strange thing, isn't it?
And the far right have capitalized on this in a spectacular fashion. We now live in this bizarro world in which Elon Musk, the billionaire backer of Trumpism, can be seen tweeting about Gamergate 2, or the inclusion of a black samurai in Assassin's Creed Shadows, or promising to fund and launch an AI-powered game studio to make games great again.
Absolutely. And again, there's no alternative. Why has chat stopped scrolling? Stupid chat. Streamlabs again. There's no alternative. We saw that in Ubisoft. They're still losing 100 million euros. AI is the only way we can continue to make games of the size and or the incompetence of we are today. The real solution, of course, is to fire everyone involved and then start making games more effectively. It is to destroy every union. It is to turn every game employee into a temporary hire that can be yeeted out the door the moment their job is complete. Because otherwise, apparently going to be 100 million euros in the red.
We are losing ground here, and something needs to be done.
I do love that, though. We are losing! Well, you're apparently losing to a political movement, Gamergate, which ended 8 odd years ago.
Done. That's why we're bringing back the Games Transformed Festival this summer for the 3rd time with a clear question to answer. How do we kick the Fash out of gaming?
I love his facial expression during all of this, too. Like, genuine confusion and sadness. His eyes look like they're about to water over. Like, how do we kick the fascists out of gaming? We've been actively purging them for 10 years. We've ran cancel cultures against anyone who so much as spoke a bad word about it, and it only made them more popular. Everything we've tried to do to stop them, every oppressive measure we've taken, every consecutive overreach has only emboldened our enemies. What is the solution? Well, let's try to persecute them more aggressively. Because if at first you don't succeed, simply repeat the same tactic ad infinitum. I do believe this is the literal definition of insanity again.
This is going to be a 2-day event held at Pelican House in London on the 11th and 12th of July. It's going to bring...
Hold on, what does victory... What is that right? What does victory look like? Increased diversity, equity, and inclusion. Is that even possible? Like, he also mentioned the black samurais. Like, how can you complain about a black samurai? Like, it's a fucking black samurai. It's nonsense. It's absolute legitimate nonsense. What does victory look like? More of that. Double down. What we're doing isn't working. We're getting our ass fucked in every single field. In politics, in media, in culture, in popularity, in everything. We are getting cream-pied. What do we do? Continue exactly the same as before. So salary transparency, there already is salary transparency, already exists. Better treatment of support staff, more money. Profit sharing. Profit sharing. Bitch, Ubisoft is 100 million euros in the hole. You know what? You know what we need, chat? You know what we need, chat? We need this. We need to institute profit sharing, but both ways. Loss sharing. Ubisoft loses 100 million euros. They bill that cost to the employees. Oh, we're sorry. We lost 100 million euros this year. We're going to be taking that out of your paychecks. All of you. I'll cut down the numbers nice and quick. Better treatment of outsourced workers. No, treat them like the dogs they are. Remove non-compete clauses. Actually, no, I don't like non-compete clauses, especially when they are abused like Games Workshop did, so... Living wage for all workers. So, profit sharing. More money. More money. More money. More money. Remove non-disparagement clauses. Oh, and after you've paid us 3 times more, we'd like to be able to critique the company as well, please. Own your own side projects? Well, you already do, unless you're doing it on the company's time. Like, listen, I was working on this whilst I was employed at Ubisoft, and I would like to own it. No. Paid overtime, ban overtime. I would like to be paid for the overtime I can no longer have. Right. Make machu sensu. Machu sensu.
And 12th of July, it's going to bring together game developers and players and political organizers and whoever else we can think to invite.
They're still calling themselves Marks. One, they're still calling themselves players. Oh god, this guy really is from 2014. And secondly, Marks. Well, he does look like the kind of guy who'd live in his friend's house and mooch off him his money and only contact his parents to ask for more money, so...
To puzzle over and answer this question. How can the left do something to stop and eventually push back this creep of extremism that's happening in our backyard?
Well, if your solution is to become even more extremist, I urge you to continue. Please, please advance down this path. Continue. Become more extreme. Become more vociferous. Organize as militantly as you conceivably can. I beg you.
There'll be talks and panels, but also games to play and role-playing workshops designed to tease out lessons.
Was that they, them, wearing a fucking mask? Yes, of course. Of course. Of course. Because COVID happened about 5 years ago, you know.
To play and role-playing workshops designed to tease.
The thing I hate the most about progressivism is I have no idea who anybody's gender is anymore.
Tease out lessons that we can then try and apply to this incredible hobby of ours. Tickets are now available online, and if you're watching this video on YouTube, you should find a link to that in the description below. And yeah, make sure you keep an eye on the Games Transform socials if you want to keep up to date with who's involved with this thing.
So, how much is a ticket for this wonderful event? £20 standard, and then solidarity. Help pay for a ticket for someone who needs one. Listen, we've got to figure out how to defeat the evil bosses, the exploitative shareholders, the people who are abusing the bottom line, comrades. You can hear me talk about this so long as you pay me £30. Oh, and £5 extra for access to the ball pit and the party games, of course. I love that. I adore that. I really do. We've got to smash the Fash. We got to take power back from the bosses and the shareholders, you see. Please, pay up. This is like them selling Marx coins for real money. So, obviously, again, Chris Bratz decided to protect his account because he's an idiot who's about 10 years out of date, who has just now started to realize that there's politics to be played about video games, who is spouting the kind of baseline nonsense that was popularized in 2016 at the goddamn best, and is inundated by people going, "You're an idiot." Is Blue Sky still live because it's far more of a lovely hug box, of course, and do-it-yourself protest games. Help. And all of this going down here, where they talk about this lovely event that you need to pay them a little bit for. But don't worry, though. Maybe other socialists will pay more so that you can get in the door. Wouldn't that be lovely? Galaxy Dragoon 87. Capitalism bad. Now give me money. Precisely. That tends to be the thrust of it. Now, I've come up with the idea. I don't think capitalism is a good thing. Everybody claps, everybody throws money on stage. And again, I am all for this. Please, please radicalize one another. Gather up as many comrades as you conceivably can into as small a location as you conceivably can, and then rile each other up, okay? I want you on the streets. I want you burning shit. I want you continuing to make videos like that. I want you to radicalize the entire People Makes Games channel. I want this to be nothing but communist essays from wall to fucking wall. I want you to embrace this ideology with gusto. Because for every single solitary one of you games industry people that do this, our power grows. People make games. That's true, but only for so much longer. Seriously, AI games cannot come soon enough, I swear to God. Catch up on a bit of super chats, and then we might do the Feral Historian one, because that one sounds fun. I like the Feral Historian. Okay, somebody needs to reach out to Feral Historian. Somebody who knows how to... Hiccups as I swallow my own tongue. Somebody who knows how to get in contact with the man. Because I tried to look at Twitter or anything, or if he had like an email listed on his YouTube, couldn't find anything. Reach out to him and basically tell him to DM me, because I'd love to have him on here sometimes with Sargon as well. We can watch some of his stuff, because he had a great video on Starship Troopers that we really enjoyed. Robleg63, Empire of Dust 2, The Quest for More Gravel. I wonder if that road ever got completed. Let's see.
Trick or treat. Can I sell your
Let's
feet?
see. Can I find any mention of the road? Empire of Dust Road. I can't find any mention of the road.
Ignorant slut.
They probably never even finished it. They probably just gave up. It would not surprise me if they just decided to just fuck it and go like, nope, can't be bothered. Sandoom, so Africa is just the moot and the Africans are halflings, doing everything and anything to screw over other non-Africans despite it being against their best interest. To a certain extent, yes. The halflings even attempted to steal food from the Sterling army sent to protect them on multiple occasions. Kongbjörn, I find it infuriating that my country pissed away more money than I can even comprehend on an entire continent of people who won't help themselves. I highly recommend Callum's video on Rhodesia, by the way. Absolutely, again, this is why foreign aid is pointless. Pointless. I've talked about this before. We don't even know how much money has been sent to Africa. We don't know. We have no idea. We know the number is in the trillions, but we haven't been able to keep count. It is so much money. We can't. Even governments can't understand the quantity. And it has achieved nothing. Absolutely nothing. There are still hunger pandemics in Africa all the time. There's still terrorism all the time. Boko Haram is still the thing. There's still ethnic cleansing going on between the various tribes constantly. Large portions of the population are still without water, still living in mud huts, etc., etc. Nothing has been achieved. Nothing. Let's see. Here we go. Let me just. Oh, there we go. Yeah, there we are. And I demonstrate this every time I talk about this. I just go to Google and I Google African hunger crises. Every time. This is 6 days old. Every single solitary time, there is an article about a hunger crisis in Africa, either ongoing or on the horizon. Every time. I want to point out as well, South Africa is the most prosperous country in Africa. It is more prosperous than Egypt. All right? It is more prosperous than Egypt. That has been around for hundreds and hundreds of years. Has been a civilized state for thousands of years. The Dutch settlers made South Africa into a more prosperous country than Egypt in a couple of centuries. From barren ground where nobody even lived at the time. And again, if we look at a map over the severity of hunger in Africa, again, surprise, surprise. What's the area with least problems? Oh, look, it's south of Africa again. Weird, especially considering that, yet again, South Africa is a fucking shit place, okay? South Africa is one of, like, the least desirable territories in Africa. Oh god, the amount of diseases down there, the amount of dry land, the amount of basically desolate wasteland, all of which was farmed only by the settlers who could get it to actually be arable land. Settlers that are now being persecuted and killed, of course. Dreadnought Logan, look, I see the French fail. I have to laugh at it. Everyone does. Normal. A walking corpse for $20. Thank you very much, sir. YouTube disallows the expression of truth against those that would continue to cause problems. Curry. Of course it does. YouTube doesn't like truth. YouTube is not fond of it. It upsets YouTube. Syntho, GG, first time the left heard the word no. That's true, yeah. Trevor N, are you going to be playing more Doom? Alien Isolation? Probably not. Not that I know of, at least. Doom did not do very well, honestly. On launch day, we didn't even break, like, what, 400 people watching, I think? It did not do very well on the channel whatsoever. I decided to play it again because, you know, it was fun, but I mean, look, compare Doom to just chatting streams like this, right? It's a pretty brutal comparison, definitely. I'm half tempted to do, like, funds for single continuing streams of a game. I know Kibbs does that, where he basically goes like, okay, if you want to see the game continued, we have to meet a minimum funding goal to make it worth it, in essence. I don't know. Part of me doesn't like it, but YouTube is a business, and unless I want to be Ubisoft... Alex Adamson, the far right have become the solution to all the problems we've caused. How do we stop them from fixing things? Well, how do we deepen the problems? Double down appears to be the solution, and hey, yeah, we'll do it. White Knuckle beat Doom? Unironically, it kind of did, yes. Although White Knuckles 2 didn't do amazing, so... Skiki, the system is broken. We must change it. Also, you aren't allowed to change the system. Sony already fudged the Stellar Blade PC release. Yeah, I saw de novo. I don't know why they do that. I mean, it's not like de novo can't be cracked either. It seems pointless. Maybe they'll remove it before launch. I hope so. We'll see. Zeroxum Doppelganger. UK peeps must revolt or leave. In 10 years, there will be nothing left to fight for. Better to Minecraft fighting than suffer for 10 years. Sadly, I don't think that's going to be an option. I think we are well past the age of violent revolution unless something really bad happens. Pexi, Elon didn't go far enough. More Roman salutes. No, please. It's too much ammunition to give them. Warcraft Gamergate mentioned. Take a drink. We would all die if we did. We cannot do that. We would all expire very quickly. Empty Veins. How much for a book review, Arch? I got an excellent sci-fi series for you to check out. It's unapologetically anti-woke and really is a great setting and story. It's called Galaxy's Edge. I think I've heard about that. The problem with book reviews is they simply take too long. Galaxy's Edge. It brings up smartphones and the Star Wars thingy. I decided to do the Trailer Park Elf one as a joke, in essence, because it has an audiobook, and I'm still not through the book because I don't have the time to listen to it, even whilst doing other things. So, Jard, I disagree with your take that Gamergate lost. Gamergate won. Gamergate is the Codex terrifying the Lorgar of Woke. Watch Black Books. Well, it established the stepping stones that we will eventually have to climb over, but I do believe that Gamergate, by the simple fact that it's no longer a movement, did lose out in the end. Now, again, it's a lose a battle to win a war kind of situation. Oshigador, I would say DEI's equality of outcome worked. All those that include it fail equally.
Heresy.
That is kind of true.
Fire is the answer.
Dogbjörn, it feels like communists think they live through life like they've got infinite money cheats. Oh, no. They themselves are acutely aware of the fact that they don't have infinite money, which is why they view being given money as a fundamental right, which is why they keep going, oh, the government needs to give us more stuff. The government needs to pay for my rent. The government needs to give me a minimum basic income. And when that doesn't work, because the government doesn't have enough money, then they look to the companies and they go, I have a right to employment. I have to be employed. You have to employ me. We need to start unions so I can't be fired. I need to be protected against being fired, even if me continuing to collect a paycheck will destroy the company. As it inevitably will. It's the reason why Norway has seen a massive deindustrialization. We used to be one of, if not in fact, the largest shipbuilding nation in the world, but we crushed all of that under regulations, under unions, under countless workers' rights initiatives that basically make employment a right. At which point, you're screwed, because if you can't fire people, you have no way to reduce costs. You have no way to limit your enormous, constantly increasing and ever-flowing outflow of cash. And so you're fucked. That's the thing. They feel entitled to everyone else's money. That, if anything, is the real thing. Everyone else's money is their money. And, okay. I was watching this show again, because I've seen a load of clips of it and I seem to like it. And I went through the Clarkson's Farm, the seasons of Clarkson Farms. Apparently there's a fourth one coming soon. And this show does an amazing job of illustrating the problems and the advantages of farming, right? On the one hand, you watch the first season, and largely due to environmental effects, weather, etc., you see him earn £141 at the end of the entire season. And you're like, oh my Jesus. He's ruining himself. And they talk about government subsidies and how most of their income was that year just straight up subsidies, like £80,000 in subsidies. So, on the one hand, it obviously sucks being a farmer. You need a ridiculous amount of money to even try to be a farmer. I think he spent like £100,000 or something just on the resources required to farm his farm before he earned even a single pound back, of course. But on the other hand, you also then look at the fact that farming in and of itself half the time just isn't profitable. They need enormous quantities of governmental grants to even be able to exist, which tells us that we fucked up farming real bad. If the price of food is now so unbelievably low that it is economically unfeasible to farm, we've created a retard system. And when then, on top of it all, the only way to be able to farm with a profit is through government, either through government subsidies or having an absolutely ludicrous amount of land, and in the case of Clarkson Farms, also having access to a hilariously popular farm shop because it's Jeremy Clarkson, and access to a burger van that sells food as well. We've basically turned farming into a hobby business. Especially here in Norway. Here in Norway, being a farmer is not a job, it is a hobby. You can't earn money as a farmer in Norway. There's too many restrictions. You don't earn enough money on what you sell. Everything has to be sold to the government at a fixed price, etc. You can't earn money. And so you're essentially just living on governmental welfare, being handed out infinitely for you to continue to play at being a farmer. And again, the majority of the error for that is the government's restrictions, making it de facto impossible to run a profitable farm. And Clarkson's farm is yet another beautiful example of that. Where, again, he doesn't need the money from the farm. He's a multi-millionaire, probably, at this point. But we do have too many farmers. And probably we would have been able to maintain food at a much more reasonable rate, as we have now, with far fewer farmers operating far larger areas. But we've kind of created a system where everyone has the right to become a farmer by purchasing even the smallest plot of land. At least here in Norway, it's a ridiculous system that needs major overhaul, but it would also include a great deal of governmental overreach to reform it, so it's a complicated issue. Ian Pepe says Clark's is national treasure. Too bad he's not young enough. He could be PM. Having watched him run a farm, I'm not sure you'd want him, but I mean, at least he gets very invested in the things that he is invested in. So. Let's see. Where was I? There I was. Hexy, a Mark's shirt made in a Vietnamese sweatshop. Probably. Deadpool Kid for $10. I thought we were supposed to stop cultural appropriation and historical revisionism, so how comes a French multi-billion-dollar company did the no-no by adding hip-hop in feudal Japanese history? Well, it's the same thing with the South African immigrants. The left says, immigrants welcome. Come to America. Come to America. In your tens of thousands. We will open the borders for you. Come, come. And then a white guy steps off the plane. And suddenly, they can go back to where they came from. again, to be able to be a progressive, you must at any given time be able to hold two mutually exclusive positions. It's the baseline requirement. Lord of Opossums, hello. Lord of Opossums. I feel like I haven't seen you in a while. Maybe I'm imagining things. In your opinion, who is the most overrated Primarch, and which Primarch is underrated? Overrated? Angron. Angron's shit. Angron's garbage. Or Lorgar. Armlong is garbage too. And underrated? Erismanus? I guess for the simple fact that he wasn't given anything at all, he was just killed. You know, I feel like Pharasmanus, because he was just kind of, you dead now. Don't I even get in my own book? No. you get a short story where the Eldar try to make you a traitor instead. Oh. All right then. Even the Khan got more attention than Pharasmanus, chat. Even the fucking Khan got more attention. Like, at least he got our book. And he got a great line. Like, Fulgrim going like, I hear you do strange things to your ships. Ah, I hear you do strange things to your warriors. At least he got the line. What did Pharasmanus go? Pharasmanus. 31st millennium. Oh, poor Pharasmanus. Sandoom, look up Sam Kinison, a World Hunger comedy bit. 1985. Let's see. Right, this might get my ass copyright claim, but it's pretty old. So let's have a look at this little thing that chat suggested. Then we'll do the feral historian one.
All right, we're gonna move along at this time now. Here's a guy who's rather unusual, and I love people who are different. You know, when I say rather unusual, you know what I mean. Ah, there you are, baby. I love you.
Well, like I said, I'm just trying to help. I'm trying to just do whatever I can for people. Like the World Hunger thing, the USA for Africa. Isn't that great? You guys hear the song? Nice song, isn't it? Beautiful. I'm like anybody else on the planet. I'm very moved by world hunger. I see the same commercials. Those little kids starving and very depressed. And yeah, I watch these things on TV and I see those commercials and I look at it and I go, God, how cruel, you know? To see a little kid out there and I go, fuck, you know, I know the film crew could give this kid a sandwich.
Well, they could, but to be fair, it wouldn't help much.
You know the kid's not out there, you know, filming a letter from home with a Betamax, huh? You know there's a director 5 feet away going, don't feed him yet! Get that sandwich out of here! It doesn't work unless he looks hungry!
That is kind of true, though. The exploitation of it all. When I remember there was oh my god, what was it? There was a picture, and yeah, there it is. When was this from? Right, okay, so there's this picture, very famous picture, taken in 1993, apparently, titled "The Vulture and the Little Girl," right? And this was an incredibly impactful picture at the time. Incredibly impactful. This was a huge picture. It went around the world. It raised fucking billions, in all due likelihood, for Africa. An incredible amount of money. It basically started like it basically started like a culture of taking pictures like this to raise public sympathy for a cause, right? But in retrospect, people do look at this and go like, hold on. What are you doing, cameraman? What are you doing? He's just like, oh, look. That bird is going to fucking eat that child. Click, 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 click. It's such a ridiculous situation. And it comes across like they think they're fucking wildlife reporters or something, right? Well, you see the BBC make a wildlife show and the photographers are like, oh, it's horrible. We gotta watch that lion fucking maul that cow or deer or bison, I don't know. Tearing its throat out and ripping its gut out and devouring it whilst it's still mooing and alive. Oh, it's terrible. But we can't interfere because it'd be unnatural. That's how apparently we viewed black people in the 90s. And listen, we can't at least chase away the vulture? No. Another one will soon take its place. Oh.
But I'm not trying to make fun of world hunger. Matter of fact, I think I have the answer because I spend a lot of time working it out. And if you want to stop world hunger, stop sending them food. Don't send these people another bite, folks. You want to send them something, you want to help, send them U-Hauls. Send them U-Hauls, some luggage, send them a guy out there that goes, hey, you know, we've been driving out here every day with your food for like the last, I don't know, 30, 40 years. And we were driving out here today across the desert, and it occurred to us there wouldn't be world hunger if you people would live where the food is!
Trust me, you don't want that answer. If you would just live where the food is, that's where you live. You don't want that solution. We've tried that solution. It don't work either. The food is here. See, again, that's the point with the Empire of Dust, right? There could be food there. The South Africans managed to grow food there. The South Africans managed to grow ass loads of food there. We've talked about many times that little South African, like, oh god, the independent little nation or whatever. What was it called? Olenia? Let me see. Was it Olenia? Olenia, was it? God, I need to find this again now because I keep Orania, that's the one. Orania, right. Right, so again, we've talked about this so many times, but Orania. So this is what Orania looked like when the Afrikaners went there to create their own little independent nation because they were like, okay, we don't want to live with the blacks. Which is literally the point they made. We don't think it'll work out well. So, what we're going to do is we're going to move into the middle of absolutely fucking nowhere. The sun-scorched hellscape in the middle of the desert, basically. And you'll leave us alone, right? And South Africa was like, by that time, ran by Mandela, etc., and their predecessors. And they went like, okay, you know, you're living in the middle of nowhere. You know, you're gonna starve, you're gonna die off, and at the very least, you will never achieve anything. You'll become entirely dependent upon us for your food and everything, you know. Let these silly racists starve to death in the desert. A few decades later, how does this continue to fucking happen, chat? How does this continue to fucking happen, chat? It's not a question of living where the food is. It's a question of making the food. It is literally the sentence of give a man a fish and he eats for a day, teach a man to fish, and he eats forever. That's what this is. You can farm Africa. You can absolutely... The primary export of Alenia is, what was it, soybeans? Pivot irrigation. What was it? I think it was beans or something, or oil or something. But they export, their primary means of income is exporting agricultural products. Oh, yeah, what's one? Macadamia farming. There you go. A toffee factory, a brewery, a call center, stockbroking service, stockbroking, architecture, construction, etc. Anyhow, so macadamia. You don't need to move the Africans where the food is.
Trick or treat. Can
And
I
you
smell
also
your
can't
feet?
teach the Africans to grow food. It just doesn't work. It just doesn't work. And even if you create the growth area for them, all you are doing is yet again creating the Empire of Dust. You create an area where the locals will live. They will live in the ruins of your civilization. They will use this machinery until it rusts and breaks down, and then it will simply stand there forever. It will never be moved. It will just remain there as a mysterious monolith for generations hence to come up and stare at and go, I wonder what that was. That's the problem.
You live in a fucking desert! Nothing grows out here! Nothing's gonna grow out here! Come here. You see this? Huh? See this? This is sand. Yeah. It's sand. You know it's gonna be 100 years from now, huh? It's gonna be sand! You live in a fucking desert! Get your kids, get your shit, we'll make one trip! We'll take you to where the food is! We have deserts in America, we just don't live in them, asshole! You guys been a great crowd, thank you very much.
The worst part is, too, people actually do live in the deserts. Let's see if I can find it here. The Chinese have, there's huge areas of China that are basically like, in essence, deserts. Here we go.
I don't want to be.
Stop that, Kennedy. There's huge parts of China that are, in essence, desert, or, gold areas of little, if no real usage, right? And what China started to do was they created large governmental programs of planting trees. So they would plant hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of trees, yeah, like this, right? And they would pipe in irrigation, all of that kind of stuff. They'd plant in the whole trees, like you see here, where they dig them up, they plant in the trees. And when you do this, you actually do reclaim the desert. Now, it takes a very, very, very long time before that territory will be, anything like arable or anything like that. But it is a long-term process to begin to reclaim desert land, and that can then be used for very simple things like agricultural farming of certain species of crops, or keeping certain species of livestock, for example. We can farm the desert. We can do all of this. The technology exists. The problem is the people. That is the message of Empire of Dust. The problem, at the end of the day, inescapably, is the people. Before anything can be done in Africa, the culture must be transformed from the ground up. And again, this also requires massive resources, of course, because once you're doing this, you need to basically pipe in water, or you need to carry in water on tracked vehicles, etc. It is a massive undertaking, but it is possible to do. Selection Doppelganger, the whites should unite and retake South Africa. A tantalizing prospect. Might shame, the Nouveau has the same sales strategy as Sweet Baby Inc. Scare tactics followed by PowerPoint deliverables that claim all credit for any profit. Yep, I've literally seen those. Marksman of 117, B. Gamergate 1 won the battle but lost the first war. I would view it opposite. They lost the battle and eventually will win us the war. Zoloxen Doppelganger. No, stop that. Stop that, YouTube. No government can survive 10% of their population rising up so long as the remaining 90s don't side with the government. Possibly, but they'll find a hard time mobilizing 90% of the fat and wealthy these days. Fat and content. Fat and content. Fat and content. Max Rebo, a reference article, China built Congo, a tall road that led straight to the ruling family on mining website. Interesting read. I have not seen that. Huh. All right, let's watch the Federal Historian video then. I think that'll be interesting. Actually, anything else in the Discord that I've seen? I really should be using these time to go through everything that is posted in the Arch and Sargon Discord, since it is somewhat overflowing. God, it is overflowing, isn't it? Maybe I need to start doing like a chatting day stream or something where I just go through everything me and Sargon hasn't done. But then again, it's nice to just have a bunch of stuff in there, I guess, though we could reach back in and grab stuff whenever we want to. Busy with the H. Oh, hey. There's a dev video in there. What is dev doing now, then? The toxic egos of content creation. Oh, I think 2 hours and 15 minutes. Chat. I know I said you could put anything in the Arch and Sargon thing for us to consider watching through, etc., but I don't think we're ever going to sit through a 2 hour, 50-minute dev video. I'm sorry, Dev. It's a bit much. It's more than a bit much. It's a bit absurd, frankly. Toxic egos of content creation. I think I saw this one and I commented on it that Arch is simply perfect. What is it even about? I don't know. Snoopy? Is it about Snoopy? It might be about Snoopy. Pirate software crashes out. Is that the Oh yeah, it is. It's the dude with like the wizard hat or whatever. That guy. I've seen him. He made those fucking short videos that were everywhere for 5 minutes. A Blizzard developer, I think he was. What did he do? I don't know. What did he do? Yet? It's mainly about World of Warcraft streamers. I see. Are there still World of Warcraft streamers? That exists? Why? Why does that exist? I'm a little bit confused as to why that exists. He pretended to be a Blizzard dev. Yes, pretended? He's kind of a weirdo. Another developer only claimed to be one. He lied a lot. Roached his team. Roach? I don't know these terms either. He didn't apologize the way people wanted him to. PR stuff. All right. Is it 2 hours and 50 minutes worth of stuff? Right. I don't think so. We'll do the feral historian one instead, I think. That seems more reasonable.
They took their Warhammer very seriously. They knew the lore of this fictional universe better than I knew the real history I was trying to write a dissertation on. I declined because I didn't know the lore and the rules seemed too Byzantine to be any fun.
That sentence started in the middle of something. Did I skip ahead? I did.
Back in my university days, a few guys invited me to play Warhammer 40k. They took their Warhammer very seriously. They knew the lore of this fictional universe better.
Just like I know that those things there, they don't slip into position like that. Those are in the helmet. The lenses do not fall down. I hated that part of that trailer. It's fucking idiotic. You wouldn't work in a deliberate weakness in your fucking helmet. And never mind.
Better than I knew the real history I was trying to write a dissertation on. I declined because I didn't know the lore.
Pussy.
And the rules seem too Byzantine to be any fun. But I've been looking into the lore of...
To be fair, the rules are too Byzantine to be any fucking fun. That is genuinely one of the primary complaints I have about 40k these days. The rules are getting more and more annoying. And see, back in the day, the rules were complicated enough to the point where I felt like it could, simulate a battle. And therefore, I was willing to put up with the complicated rules because I got something back from it. See, if a mechanic is adequately complicated, then you get a certain feeling of simulation from what's going on, right? And so you're willing to put up with more bullshit because you get more reward at the end. But as the simulation aspect fell away more and more from 40k, as the rules were simplified in dumb ways consistently, I got less and less interested in putting up with the rules. And so the rules started getting annoying and grating and slow and upsetting and, well, all of these various things that is now resulted, of course, in Arch creating his own tabletop setting, which he's still working on, by the way. It's going along very well. I'm very happy with how it's turning out. We've started designing spaceships now for this setting. Things like the first transport ship for the UEC, for example, where you know how in all these space settings, the transport ships are always these enormous, gargantuan, dumbass ships? These bigger than battleships things, right? Because if you're going to carry enough stuff for a planetary invasion, you need an unbelievable amount of supplies. I did the math on this. And to create a ship capable of carrying enough supplies to support a planetary invasion, you would need a ship the size of Manhattan Island. And you'd need about 13 of them. Which is just absurd. It is just ridiculous. And so instead, okay, what would be a better way to transport supplies without the behemoth ship? Transport containers. It's what we already do. When we're trying to transport shit across the sea, we don't build a ship that can contain all of it. We use transport containers that we then load onto a ship. And in space, there's even less of a problem of that. What you do is you have hundreds of thousands of small containers that are attached to the main ship by ultra-thin wires, in essence, that are all controlled by their own central computers, so that you can keep them in a large cloud behind the transport ship. That way as well, if something goes wrong, say a container of flammables can ignite for some reason, okay, no problem. You dump that individual container. Say that something gets damaged or destroyed, you dump that individual container. You don't interfere with the rest of the ship's carry capacity. Furthermore, when another warship needs resupply, you don't dispatch resources from the main container ship by docking with them or sidling up next to them, or any of these complicated maneuvers. You just tell the container with the applicable resources to rendezvous with that ship, docking with it mid-space, transferring the resources, and then rejoining the rest of the containers. Simple. Anyways, side tangent aside.
Of Warhammer 40k recently, and I had a moment of resonance with it. I've come away with a different impression, one that might even be considered heresy. For those not familiar with this brutal universe that gave us the term grimdark, a brief rundown.
I'll speed up a little bit. Not because I don't like the timbre of your voice, historian, just because I'm impatient.
It's the 41st millennium. Most of humanity, trillions of people across millions of worlds, are united under the Imperium of Man, ruled over by the God Emperor. Well, technically. You see, 10,000 years ago, a fellow by the name of Horus kicked off a civil war and nearly killed his shininess. Since then, the Emperor has been a catatonic near corpse propped up in a golden life support throne, and the Imperium is ruled by a sticky spaghetti ball of overlapping bureaucracies that even the 40k sourcebooks can't keep straight. We'll talk about why the Emperor is still
That's true. I wish GW would keep their fucking lore straight more often.
vitally important in a bit, but for now, just know that the far future of the 41st millennium is a dark age, and life in the Imperium is miserable.
And why is it miserable? Bureaucracy! We need to abolish bureaucracy as quickly as humanly possible.
To be a man in such times is to be one amongst untold billions. It is to live in the cruelest and most bloody regime imaginable. These are the tales of those times. Forget the power of technology and science, for so much has been forgotten, never to be relearned. Forget the promise of progress and understanding, for in the grim dark future there is only war. Fun times. Mostly the Imperium just wages war. War against various alien races, Xenos is a blanket term, which come in classic fantasy flavors like space elves, space dwarves, and space orcs.
Fucking hate the space dwarves.
War against demons, because there are demons in this universe, and actual evil gods directly interacting with people. And of course, factions of the Imperium spend some time fighting each other. There is only war, because at its core it's a tabletop wargame and people need to be able to play it regardless of which faction in the army they've dumped a bunch of time and money into is. But that's a whole other story. Interstellar travel in 40k is achieved through the warp.
Engage.
I fucking wish.
No, the warp is a realm of chaos inhabited by malicious entities.
You know, that movie literally just is Warhammer 40k, but they either didn't know about it or couldn't afford the license at the time, and so simply made that instead.
Yeah, more like that. Traversing the warp requires psychic navigators, but without some reference point, ships would never find their way through, and that's where the Emperor comes in. Because he's mostly a spirit at this point, his consciousness exists beyond the physical plane, and this ghost emperor spends the millennia fighting the forces of chaos in the nether realms and keeping a beacon going in the void, a psychic light by which the ships of mankind can navigate. Without the Emperor, the Imperium collapses, not just in political terms, but maintaining contact across the millions of planets would be physically impossible. The Emperor is quite literally the light holding the Imperium together. The catch is that maintaining this beacon requires sacrifices. Specifically, psychers as they're called, people with highly developed paranormal capacity that allows them to perceive the contours of the warp, among other abilities. They assist the Emperor in his efforts to impose order in the warp and hold back the chaos, and in so doing they are consumed. Hundreds of them every day. The Imperium
Assists the Emperor by being his snacks. That's it's a remarkably charitable take that I do appreciate.
of man is fueled by literal human sacrifice so that the war against all can continue for another day. And the Imperium's most recognizable fighting force are the Space Marines, of which there are a bunch of chapters and they all have their own lore, named characters, special bullshit moves, and all that other stuff I'm not going to get into. Space Marines, or the Adeptus Astartes as they are known in Warhammer Pseudo-Latin, are modified super soldiers. They're 8 feet tall, they have immense strength, they have an extra heart and lung, they can spit acid, and they're essentially immortal.
And they can eat people's heart to pick up on their memories.
And they're exclusively male, at least nominally. I mean, after the extensive operations and genetic modifications involved, they're not really human anymore, either physically or genetically. Do Astartes have functional man parts? I've only read a fraction of the vast body of written lore, but I'm under the impression no. But
we literally don't quite know the answer to that question. At the very least, they have no interest in actually utilizing them at any point. There's been some tiny, almost like pseudo-rare hintish of something that resembles fondness between space marines and humans, but even that is ridiculously goddamn rare, so probably not. Furthermore, seeing as this Emperor literally wanted to have only male space marines is one reason, because he didn't want them to reproduce, probably not. And even if they did, well, they're genetically clones of the Primarch at this point, so... And we also know that Fulgrim was probably banging a whole lot of bitches on his original planet, you know, being the weirdo that he is, and seeing as he doesn't seem to have any children, at the very least not that we know of, it seems fairly likely to assume that no, their man parts are not operational.
But in outward appearance, they're big, hulking, muscular dudes, exclusively. There's reasons given in the lore for this, which have sparked a whole series of essays and Reddit threads arguing about sexism, market demographics, and hegemonic masculinity, which is an odd point of contention when talking about super soldiers that are literally made by opening up children and replacing most of their internals with harvested parts and processed Superman juice from prior successes. Yeah, the Imperium is already horrifying, but is anyone actually wanting a story about little girls being ripped open and turned into genocidal war hulks through years of pain and hardship?
Yes. Yes, see, that's the thing. Because it doesn't matter. It's pointless. Again, this is the left-wing progressivist position of being able to hold two mutually exclusive positions at once. Yes, the Imperium is evil, the Imperium is fascist, everything the Imperium does is the worst thing imaginable, it's horrible, and it must be condemned. But we need our representation. Because the representation isn't about representation in the game. The progressives don't give a fuck about whether or not there are female space marines. It is utterly irrelevant. What is relevant is that they are exclusively male. That is the point of contention. You cannot, in progressivism, have anything that advantages or is exclusive towards males. Cannot happen. Males must be literally chased out of every space they embody. Not embody. The fuck is word again? English is defeating me yet again. I have the word at the tip of my tongue, but I can't get it out of my fucking face hold. Anyways, any space they are in is a different word for it. That's why they want female space marines. It's pure current year politics and has nothing to do with 40k at all.
I'll pass.
I mean, hell, they've literally said that to us.
Yet, despite the grimness, the Imperium can be a funny place sometimes. I don't mean satire exactly. It takes itself seriously as sci-fi war stories set in a dying, miserable universe. Though I must say, broadly speaking, it does a fine job of skewering bureaucracy and government in general as a bloated, malicious maelstrom of self-serving swine that would have subsumed everything long ago if they were slightly less incompetent.
God, I wish 40k was satirical in that regard. Hey, look! The government is evil! Ha 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 ha! That's a good joke. I fucking wish. And inhabit. Thank you, chat.
The Gothic religious overtones feed into this well, and that pseudo-Latin naming of everything lends it a weight of ponderous pomposity that I find hilarious. I mean, imagine going into the DMV and facing some dour-looking clerk proclaiming the sanctity of the Adeptus Administratum in the name of the God Emperor of Man. I couldn't keep a straight face. And yet there's something else. The Imperium is oppressive, inefficient, and hopelessly corrupt, dependent on a rotting carcass and a chair to hang together in a universe full of malicious chaos demons and genocidal xenos trying to wipe it out. On the surface, it seems dark and hopeless. But I'm not sure it is, because while reading through Warhammer novels, rulebooks, faction codices, and essays on why Warhammer is just a masculine fantasy for misogynists and closet fascists, I realized that it's not the grimdark hopelessness that I initially assumed. And it's encapsulated by this passage, which I read in the 7th edition codex, because 7th edition is the one I got for free. Mankind's...
God damn it. I really do need to switch to the Brave browser at some point.
Evolutionary change, tens of thousands of years in the making. If humanity can survive the trauma of change, it can cast off the mundane shackles of its current form to begin a new epoch of psionic mastery, an era of wonderment and the dawning of a hitherto unseen golden age. Throughout the Imperium, the tide of psychically active humans continues to rise on a daily basis. Yet that mankind will survive this deluge at all is by no means certain. Against this backdrop of a galaxy at war, the Imperium faces an unrelenting doom. If the ever-increasing numbers of rogue psychers are not controlled, what they unwittingly unleash will further strain the fabric that holds the warp at bay. Should too many holes be punctured through reality, should that gap ever be too widely bridged, then the powers within the warp will burst forth to consume the galaxy. A time of endless night presses in, and everywhere the enemies of mankind gather like eaters of carrion. Only the Emperor's foresight and preparation stand a chance of seeing humanity through such end times.
Right, so we're going for the hopeful 40k. Now, I was once a supporter of the idea of hopeful 40k. I no longer am. See, in a perfect universe where GW knew how to write anything, hopeful 40k has a lot of potential promise, where you see humanity eventually beginning to establish its borders, beginning to win the many wars that it is waging, perhaps even having a psychic awakening and so on. But all of this would be very complicated to write. It would require a lot of build-up that GW is frankly incapable of at this point in time, and the lore implications as well are rather complicated. For example, we know that one of the reasons that humanity collapsed to begin with was too many psychers. Psychers were awakening to control entire populations. Psychers became a scourge upon the old Imperial Federation, and it struck at the worst possible time with the men of iron and gold and so on, which might themselves also be a metaphor for a psychic awakening, and the fact that most psychers that awaken to significant psychic powers often turn out to be absolutely ridiculously insane. Not to mention, of course, the problem with the warp. If you begin to suffuse the Imperium of Man with psychic powers through a genuine, general psychic awakening, will there even be any walls between the Immaterium and the real world anymore? Will we be able to master it as quickly and effectively as the Eldar, wielding the warp as a tool rather than as an enemy? Very, very, very unlikely, considering the average human's inclinations. So, in all due likelihood, a general psychic awakening would simply lead to the complete and utter annihilation of the entire fucking universe.
And this crystallized my impression of the 40k universe and why everything happens the way it does. We can dismiss this as Imperium propaganda, fine. But if we take it as potentially true, then all the war and struggle isn't hopeless. Brutal, desperate, making terrible sacrifices not only of lives but morality. But in that context, there's reason to it. Not justification, not absolution, but it's no longer nihilistic feudal war. It's fighting not only to preserve humanity today, but to achieve a real future in the face of near certain doom.
See, I disagree with that. I do not believe that fighting to continue one's existence is ever pointless. In essence, at any point. Okay, so you're going to lose the war. The Imperium is hopeless, everything, blah, blah, blah. The demons coming in from all edges. Okay. But they've maintained the Imperium for 10,000 years after the heresy. How can one say that that was futile just because they might lose the war in another 10,000 years? How can one say to all of the countless generations, the billions, the trillions, the zillions that grew up during that time that, oh, I'm sorry, all of your lives were pointless. We shouldn't have struggled to keep any of you safe because in the end we'd actually lose. Continuing to fight, even in a hopeless position, is not necessarily immoral. At all. Continuing to fight to maintain one's standards, one's hopes, one's ideals and dreams is not immoral or unnecessary at all. Now, one can argue that in a completely hopeless position where there is hope in surrender, that it is immoral to continue to fighting. Sure. Take, for example, the Japanese during the Second World War. Or remnants of the Waffen-SS in Germany at the end, for example, where they would continue to fight and both get themselves killed, get civilians killed, and getting enemies killed, when all they would have to do is surrender. If the Japanese on, say, Iwo Jima, for example, which at that point the war was already pretty much guaranteeably lost, would have just exited their tunnels and gone, okay, we give up, then that would have been it. Tens of thousands of lives would have been saved. But that is not the reality of the Imperium. If the Imperium comes out of its trenches and says to the countless besieging forces of Xenos, of chaos, of all of this nonsense, okay, right, we're not going to win this, so we give up. They'd be killed. The best case scenario, they'd be killed. The absolute best case scenario, they'd simply be murdered. Worst case scenario, they'd be devoured slowly, enslaved to dark gods, skinned alive to feed flesh factories, or turned into demon kulabas. In the world of the 41st millennium, there are many, many fates significantly worse than death. And in that situation, continuing to resist, even in the face of absolute utter hopelessness, is not only good, it is the moral choice.
And that, together with the brutalist World War's design style of the Imperial military, reminds me of a historical analog. Because of course it does, that's my thing. In the last year of the Second World War, Germany was firmly on course to defeat. Their only hope was either an Allied mistake of such enormity that it would end the war on its own, or a separate peace in the West. The former was astronomically improbable, and the latter was completely ruled out by the Western Allies. Most of Germany's leaders...
Yes, but in essence, Germany's hope at that point in the war was either a peace treaty, which was unlikely because the Allies didn't want peace. No. Well, yeah, no, it's true. The Allies didn't want peace. The Allies wanted surrender. But had the Battle of the Bulge, for example, gone Germany's way, which was, what, winter 44, 45? So, yeah, somewhat within the, time span. Had the Battle of the Bulge gone the Axis's way, I'm not entirely convinced that the Allies couldn't have been enticed into some sort of a peace treaty. Well, when I say the Allies here, I mean the Western Allies, mind you. The odds would still have been tiny, and I don't think it was overly likely, but again, that was Germany attempting its Hail Mary, wasn't it?
Knew they were facing certain defeat. The people knew, and yet they fought on, and they fought well. Why?
Why? Now that's an interesting question with a lot of interesting answers to it. Now, one of it is, of course, an extraordinarily effective propaganda machine that convinced the German people that if they lost, oh, they were fucked. Quite literally, in the case of the Soviets and their massive rape campaign against the German people after their victories. But you can also look at the Japanese yet again. The Japanese, in essence a feudal state, brought into a state of being a modern nation, were willing to take horrendous sacrifices to continue fighting. They barely ever surrendered. They were more often than not willing to kill themselves while surrendering by grabbing hold of a hand grenade than they were of giving up to the Americans. In part, this was due to the Bushido spirit, to hyper-generalize it, but it was also due to the fear of the enemy. The Japanese were utterly convinced that if the Americans captured them, they would face a fate worse than death. Now, in part, that was because the Japanese exposed their captured prisoners to a fate worse than death, and they expected nothing else but that in return. It's the reason why the fighting on the Eastern Front was so savage as well, especially after the early years, where the Soviets demonstrated through absolute barbarism over and over again that the Germans would have no mercy whatsoever. The best they could hope for was a swift death. And this, of course, also hardened the German hearts against the Soviets, as initially the Germans were more than willing to take Soviet prisoners of war. In fact, they took like 1 million of them at a time during certain surrounds. But that, too, grew less and less popular as the war ground on because the two sides were hardened against each other. In the case of the Germans, there were a lot of German formations actually sacrificing, surrendering to the Allied forces. There are accounts of like entire German brigades, essentially, surrendering to a handful of American soldiers because they're like, okay, our choices are surrender to the Soviets or the Americans. Easiest choice. Again, it was the same with the Imperium. If you are in a position where surrender is an option, then mayhap surrender is indeed the moral choice. If you are in a position where surrender is not an option, well, keep fighting.
Because surrender didn't simply mean losing a war. Pay some reparations, get a new flag, feel like losers for a few years while you rebuild. It meant brutal and utter destruction. It wasn't propaganda, it was what the Allies said they were going to do. The Morgenthau Plan, proposed by U.S. Treasury Secretary Henry Morgenthau, was accepted as Allied policy for a time. Roosevelt and Churchill initially signed off on it as the framework for post-war Germany. The Morgenthau Plan called for the dismantling of most German industry, turning the country into an agricultural colony and keeping the German standard of living down to subsistence levels. The Soviet Union would receive reparations in the form of assets, territory, and forced German labor outside Germany. Subjugation, starvation, and slavery.
And again, that was the best outcome. There were worse ones, okay? Oh, well, not the best outcome, but there were worse propositions. There was that book. What was it? Let me see. Ah, yes. Here we go. The Solution of the German Problem. I believe this was the book. Or was it? No, probably in 947. No, it wasn't this one. Is it? I'm trying to find. No, the book in question was released before the war. The German problem, the solution of the German problem. I'm not sure which one of the books it is, but there was a book released before the war and was used actively in Nazi propaganda for quite some time, where a Jewish author, of course, proposed the solution to the German problem. The solution to the problem was to castrate the Germans. Straight up. By an American Jew, yes, chat. To castrate the Germans and, in essence, partition Germany to the surrounding nations. To wipe out the German people. That book, again, unsurprisingly, was heavily used in German propaganda before the war, because, duh. And so, when the German propaganda ministry told its people that if we lose, everything is over, everything is done, we are going to be destroyed as a people, when Hitler said Germany will either win or be destroyed, he wasn't talking out of his ass. He was talking about the situation that appeared to be the case in the world at that point.
The plan was dropped due to a heavy pushback within the administration, most notably from Henry Stimson, head of the then-named War Department, moral revulsion amongst the American people, and of course its propaganda value in Germany.
You don't say.
Because when that is the price of defeat, you fight. No matter what the odds, no matter how unattainable victory might appear, fighting is the only option left, and dying in battle is preferable to being a starving slave while your entire people is destroyed. The encroaching horde may wipe you out, but if that is their goal, then the only purpose left in life is to make them pay for every inch of ground they take. And that's Warhammer 40k. There are no good guys. You might have a favorite army, you might like the lore or think they look cool, but there are no objectively good sides.
No, the Imperium are the good guys. Fighting for humanity's survival is an objectively moral objective.
And yet, if humanity in the Imperium is evolving towards some new plane of non-physical existence, as the earlier passage implies, then the fight isn't completely in vain. It's buying time, holding back the ruin for another day, and maybe averting the worst of it. Just as in our own history, Germany was spared complete destruction largely because it fought on even when victory was out of reach, and thereby gained less onerous terms of defeat that allowed them to start over. Now, I can almost hear someone somewhere saying, "See, Warhammer is for Nazis, you just said so." But that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that Germans are people, even when ruled by a horrendous, murderous, grimdark regime.
Okay, hold on there. I don't know if I'm going to go that fucking far. Listen, I'm not for the Jewish solution to the German problem, but do we need to give them peoplehood? I feel like that's one step too far, honestly.
Regime, and when faced with an onslaught of demons openly bent on destroying them in creatively malicious ways, the only sensible thing for them to do was to fight to the bitter, bloody end. And that's made me think about 40K, not only in terms of its own story, but as a cultural echo of our real history. It bears a heavy British influence, of course, but it's broad enough to resonate. An amalgam of influences. It's a style you could almost call pan-second millennium, with its fusion of medieval, world wars, and 20th century space opera. An orbital drop pod disgorging armored knights charging towards a line of boxy, primitive-looking tanks is absurd. And yet it works. Because all the pieces are in some way familiar. Because after a cursory examination of European history, of human history even, one could be forgiven for concluding that there is only war. Maybe we do live in a grimdark sort of world and we're just used to it. But it's not a hopeless world. And somehow the slenderness of that thread makes it feel that much stronger. And with this new impression of the Warhammer 40K universe, I think I'll read more of it. I may even try a game or two. I still think the rules are a bastard son of the tax code, but the idea of pitting a 1,000-point army of mixed Imperium forces chosen mostly for what I think is cool against 1,500 or 2,000-point opposition has a certain appeal. Yeah, it's not strictly in accord with the rules as codified in the 10th edition core book, but anyone that's going to make a crusade out of arbitrary minutiae of faction keywords or squad structure probably isn't someone I want to sit at a table with anyway. Or maybe that's just the chaos talking. In any case, I don't think I'm done with Warhammer. A universe full of malicious chaos demons. Chipmunks.
I like this guy. I like this guy. Again, somebody
Back in
knows
my
how to get a
university
hold of
days,
him.
a few guys
We need to get him on the cast at some point. And he is entirely correct about the rule set, yet again, which is why, again, in the tabletop setting that me and Sargon are currently working on, we are attempting to simplify that rule set quite a bit, whilst also making it a greater deal of simulation, which so far we're getting pretty good at, honestly. We have some very, very nicely functional rule set systems right now that reward maneuvering as much as it does shooting stuff. As that is another one of those things that really do piss me off about 40K. The fact that moving doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Okay, you flank the enemy over there while you achieve nothing. Flanking is pointless. It's worthless. It does nothing for you. You shoot at a guy from the flank, you don't get anything. Like, that's not right. You flank an enemy, they should be perturbed by that. That should be an effective means of dislodging an enemy from a powerful position, in fact, which is what you can do in our setting. Our setting is way better than 40K, by the way. Just going to hammer that home yet again, because it's true. Right. Let's do a few more super chats. Andre, hi Arch, for the last video about AI. I sent on Discord a video about a proper AI. It's created by a Sargon countryman. LLM will never become AI, but Neuro, I think she's either already is or will be. If not, she will become the progenitor. I've seen a bit of Neuro. She's not an AI. She's LLM. She's in essence an LLM as well. All AIs today are in essence LLMs. And again, all you need from an AI companion is in essence an LLM. A complex enough one and an advanced one, of course, definitely, but so long as you can simulate a human, that's all you require. It doesn't need to be one. It doesn't even need to be that good at pretending to be one. In fact, having it not be a real human is kind of the point. When I buy myself a sex bot, I don't want it to complain. I don't want it to ask for consent. I don't want it to be perfectly human. I want it to be a sex bot. Unsurprisingly. Max Rebo, Chernobyl Congo, Empty Wains, try searching Galaxy's Edge by Jason Anspach and Nick Cole. Audible series has a great narrator. Alex Anderson, a lot of profits farmers could make is also burned by rejected produce. Half of what they grow, even though it is edible, doesn't meet EU regulations. That's true. Well, to be fair, those are standards we have for a reason. Grain that goes into bread needs to be of a higher standard necessarily so than the grain that we feed animals and so on. And that also can be affected by weather, bad crops, la la la. Bloodthirsty. Hey, Arch, have you heard Roland, the Headless Thompson Gunner? I think the song and lyrics are both cool and it's from your country. Love what you do. Thank you, sir. I have not heard it, no. Capital Not here. It's like in Civ. They have researched irrigation and work ethics. Yep. Work ethics. Work ethics is the entire thing. Hexy, Africa could be the #1 world power, but Africans. Yes, Africa is an incredibly rich continent. It has vast natural resources and enormous areas that could be turned arable, but Africans. Dragon Joe. This is going back a bit, but I don't watch gaming streams because I'm at work. I do chat streams, though, because I can listen. That's true. Well, I know that for a fact, too. I know that I'm a lot more popular when I do the chatting streams because we can talk about what involves people most on this channel. But even then, there are definitely gaming streams that do way better than others. People love the Vampire the Masquerade ones, for example. And usually when I do something new, like Oblivion, I think we had like 1,000 people watching then. It was amazing. But again, Doom did really poorly for some reason. I'm genuinely a bit surprised. I assume it's because everyone was excited to play it for themselves, and so they didn't want to bother, seeing somebody play it, but that one did incredibly poor. Gola 82, no Sargon, no peace. Well, send him angry messages. Aramaic discourse? Aramaic, in fact, discourse. I always throw up a Roman salute before I goose step to my computer when I play video games. Don't know about you. Only when I play Hearts of Iron. Only when I do play Hearts of Iron, of course. So, Fuzzwas, I'd want to see you finish more games. See, that is also a thing I do imagine. Because maybe if I'd finished the games, then more people would be interested in it long term. But simultaneously, the longer a stream series goes on, the fewer people tune in. So it's like, one of those weird things, isn't it? Maybe we could set up some sort of like a funding goal for the next stream style thing, but maybe. Because in essence, if the audience is interested, then the is interested. If the audience is not interested, then come up with something else. Chaplain, oy vey, have a shekel for noticing, Goyim. Thank you. Moogie, that bridge on the meme is a lie. It's called the Sebra Diddley. That was constructed on Empire Fassalides in 1632. It was destroyed multiple times and rebuilt. Last time was by the Italians. They fixed it, but they built a better bridge next to it. Please stop. Is it? I think I found, didn't we look into this before? I think I read a Wikipedia article. Let's see. Yeah, here it is. Yeah, so this is the bridge. So
the question. Fire is the answer.
This is what we found out a while ago. The legendary foundation. So there's a legend that it was built by an emperor, I believe, and the history claims that it was the Portuguese, the introduction of lime mortar that constructed the bridge.
You ignorant.
It was destroyed by the Italians. Central arch of the bridge was removed during the Zemen Mesafint. Local warlords stop an impending invasion. Native emerged by means of rope stretched across the open space. The Emperor Menelik orders reconstruct also an imposing gateway to the southern side of the bridge. That was destroyed in 1941. And the bridge was repaired in February 2002 by engineers from an American philanthropic organization. The repairs to the separate bridge reportedly lasted until 2005. After this, a modern bridge was connected to the country nearby 2009. So it was repaired by Americans, fell into disrepair again, was destroyed in 2005. After which, another bridge, presumably built by more Europeans, I'd wager, built yet another bridge that will also inevitably fall into disrepair and be abandoned again. Seems to be a generalized pattern. Gabriel Lartier, what is your conclusion on War Tales? War Tales is fun. I like a lot of the mechanics in it, but it does get quite grindy, in my opinion. I've basically gotten to the point now where to move into the next area, I need to kill a bunch of ghosts, and I've just been doing that for a while, and I still don't have enough resources to bring everyone up to the standards where they can take on, like, the second area. I'm kind of like, okay, the combat system is wearing on me really hardcore, because the combat is pretty simplistic. So I'm growing tired of it, unfortunately, rather quickly. Moogie, Arch, play Doom Eternal or 2016 or Project Brutality. People want to play Doom Dark Ages themselves. They don't want to get spoiled. That is true. That is always a concern. Although, largely, when we do a new game, it gets a lot of viewership. Again, Oblivion. But then again, everybody's already played Oblivion, I suppose. Maybe. Yeah. We could try to look at Doom 2016, I guess. Because I heard that one was quite good. I heard mixed things about, was it Doom Eternal? I played Doom Eternal. That's the one with the swords and shit, right? I've heard mixed things about those two games, whether you should play the Doom, the old one, or the Doom Eternal one, which I think is the slightly newer one that kind of introduced a new storyline. Adam Wooford, there were too many other people was streaming Doom, I'm presuming. Yes, of course. Probably a lot of people streaming Doom. "2016 and Eternal are both really good." Expedition 33. I've looked at that. It's a JRPG, in essence. I'm not really the biggest fan of JRPGs. I've heard nothing but good things about it, so maybe. We do have a fair few things that were actually funded that we should get through first, though. We'll probably do the beginning of the Fallout series tomorrow, I'm thinking. Then we got to do Scorn as well. That one too. And Monster Prom. So we do have a fair few requests that we need to get through too. Angry Salt Shaker for 5 on Streamlabs. Thank you, sir. I don't know why we're going after the Africans for not maintaining their infrastructure when the Irish still haven't finished that damn hospital. Or maybe the Irish are more like the Africans than we thought. Curry Fund. They are. There is simply no doubt. The Africans and the Irish, basically the same thing. Basically the same thing. I can't even see the difference between an African and an Irishman. Never been able to. To me, they look identical. Always have, always will. No difference. Voltage 1066, Doom 3! I played that one years ago. It's a horror game.
Can I sell your feet?
We can try to do a funding for it, I guess, but I am playing a horror game voluntarily. Actually, that's a lie. I ain't playing a horror game voluntarily that isn't White Knuckle, because I quite enjoy White Knuckle. Although I'll probably have to move on from that too, as it too didn't do particularly well. Which saddens me. It really does sadden me. Upsetting. White Knuckles is fun. Viewing stuff. Stream Monster Girl Quest Paradox. Paradox. I've played Monster Girl Quest. It's surprisingly decent, actually. Surprisingly good story. A firm foundation. Monster Girl Quest Paradox RPG is a trilogy game series made by and is a sequel to the original Monster Girl Quest. Alternative universe state and the role of temporal paradoxes in the plot. Okay.
Trick or treat. Can I smell your feet?
It's an RPG? I don't know about that. Listen, when I'm playing a Monster Girl Quest game, it's not necessarily for the mechanics. Alright? And so adding in a complicated RPG mechanic, I don't know about that. That sounds mayhaps not as endearing as you might think. Unless it has a really good companion system, I suppose, which could be interesting because it does have a lot of cute little characters, but yeah. Question mark, question mark, question mark. I also somehow doubt that it's safe for work. Sujar, Doom 2016 is the better game. Doom Eternal has better mechanics, but the story is worse. Would recommend both Black Books and Underrail. What is the Black Books?
Trick or treat. Can I smell your feet?
Black Book on Steam is a dark RPG adventure based on Slavic myths, which you play as a young sorceress, fight evil forces in a card-based... Oh, I do like card-based battles. And explore the world where humans live alongside mythical creatures. That does sound kind of cute. That does look kind of cool. Nice art style. What's the other one? Underrail? Wasn't that the Fallout one? I think I've seen that one too. Yes, Underrail. Old school turn-based isometric indie role-playing game. That too looks kind of neat. But very, very niche.
I have lost.
Very, very niche. I do need to play Dominions again soon, because when I played that once, it did surprisingly well, so I'll play Dominions. Empty Veins, you should revisit Terra Invicta or Imperatorum. I am planning to do Terra Invicta again. I basically need to relearn the fucking game first, so I need to find time to do a run so I can remember the fucking mechanics. And I definitely want to do Terra Invicta, because I love Terra Invicta. Terra Invicta is such a good game. Terra Invicta is a game where I don't even care if nobody watches. I just want to play it. I don't even give a shit. Trify, gaming streams aren't bad, but I more often catch other live streams because I am often doing more things whilst listening. Work, gym, gaming, myself, etc. And I do the same with the lore videos. Hard to do that while watching gaming. That's absolutely true. That is true. I need to shed the Dreyfy audience. and replace him with 16-year-olds. I don't know if that would work out in the long term, but hey, it's worked out for lots of other YouTubers. Maybe that's what we'll try to do. Try to adopt a more millennial humor. Yes. And Roblegs 623. I had to watch one of your streams, but I'm having a lovely lady in my life that I'm tying myself to for life on 6M6. Congratulations, dude. I'll watch more after that. Good. Viewing stuff will need censoring, true, but can recruit every girl. They have dialogue. It's kind of interesting. 191 Redbird. Nobody wants to spoil Doom by watching anyone play it. Yep, I do think that is probably a part of the reason.
Lost. Shit.
I was thinking of doing a proper thing for Dune, though. Let me ask a poll here. So, the Dune MMO is coming out in, I think, a month or so, and I was thinking of starting a like guild for it in essence, because I haven't. The server situation seems confusing, where there appears to be servers. They appear to be talking about creating the opportunity to host servers. And I know the Kibbs Cord was very interested in doing Dune as well. So I might start something with that to while away the hours. And it's a nice survival crafty MMO, so you can waste a lot of pointless time in it. And nothing to be spoiled on either. And Empty Veins, you should play Space Beast Terror Fright with Lumi, Kibbs, and none other. Well, we can't play anything with Kibbs because he doesn't play PE games with other people. Space Fright Terror Beast. What is this? SBTF is a very hard arcade-style roguelike permadeath first-person shooter. Oh, that's an imposing description. You play as a marine who must brave dark, claustrophobic, and terrifyingly intense space beast-infested spacecraft. Want to extract critical data and lucrative upgrades. Can you make it out alive? That gun bounces a lot. So,
Can I sell your feet?
aliens. But co-op, sort of. Extraction shooters. I don't know. I'm growing steadily more upset with the entire idea of extraction shooters. Like 11, Terra Invicta, please. Hungry, sleep-deprived rants. I know. I need to sit down and relearn Terra Invicta. I've even got way more art for Terra Invicta now. I have new artwork for Terra Invicta. I have more Terra Invicta waifus that I could put up and that I should put up. And will put up eventually. More of our gender-swapped Mexican, whose name now all of a sudden escapes me. Hernan Cortez? That was not it. But he is the best Mexican. There is no doubt about it. There can be no doubt about it. He is, canonically, the only true good Mexican. It is true. Where was the other parts I had about this? I had... Where on God's good little earth did I put... Ah, there it is. Look, we even have her in a dress now. Isn't that remarkable? Even in a dress. She's not fond of it, but sometimes you have to force your gender-changed Mexican into different clothing. It's just how it is. Even if they don't like it. I'll save those. Oliver Nord, actually, relearn while on stream. You'll get loads of super chats to tell you how to play correctly. Also, honest, we aren't here for performance gaming. Oh, I don't know about that. People whinge at me a lot for not being good enough at the game and obsess me. JD Sickman, I tune into gaming streams for yapping. Also, cult of personality, I suppose. Do you run commentary while playing without streaming? Run commentary while playing? Sometimes I catch myself doing it. I try not to do it because it's weird and strange and silly, but sometimes, yes. And Dreyfy, 16-year-olds, Arch, the autistic, unemployed crowd? Yes. Yes, exactly. They'll have nothing better to do, except going to school, I guess, but kids don't go to school these days anyways. They just lop around at home or jerk off to anime girls, so infinite time, in essence. And Moogly on Streamlabs, I am trying to start playing Warhammer Fantasy. Which edition would you recommend? It doesn't need to be simple. I want to experience the old school. What's the one with the Skaven one? Oh, there we go. Is it this one? I think is it this one? Hold on, oh, it's not that one. Is it fifth? It's fifth, or is it? No, it's fourth, isn't it? It's fourth, right? So I would recommend you start either from 4th edition or 5th. 5th is probably a little bit, better overall. But I started in 4th, and I loved 4th. Or I have models from, I think, 3rd edition Warhammer. But 4th or 5th would be my recommendations. And then you could kind of try to upscale it a little bit from there, but I would definitely recommend starting from 4th or 5th. Those were my favorites. I loved that, especially Skaven. The Skaven 4th edition cover is still like one of the best covers ever. And I read that book to literal pieces until the cover came off. Loved that book. Loved the shit out of that book. Such a good book. Such a good source book. An amazing fucking source book. All right, so 36% would want a guild, whilst the majority is not really interested in Dune. That's fine. All right.
Trick or treat.
There's probably like 30, 40 people then. Interesting. Interesting. And Empty Veins, have you ever looked into the Middle-earth game from Games Workshop? I have. The Lord of the Rings tabletop game. I have looked into it a little bit. It looks nice. I like a lot of the ideas they have, focusing around like more heroic characters and that stuff. It's a nice idea. I think it would probably be quite enjoyable to play as well, but I've never really gotten into it to play. No. Yeah. In essence, yeah. Not interested in do me? People were to for meme redo lol. Well, still, there's a lot of people. Assuming all voters actually follow through. Well, we don't need all of them. Fuck, I would have voted. And I would have won. I literally had a brain fart and forgot what Dune was. Entirely normal. It's or do me. Do me. Fuck's sake. I can't spell. It's fine. It's normal. I don't know how to spell. It's natural. Not a problem. Not a problem.
Trick or treat.
35% of
Can I
200 is
summon
70.
your
Well, it's
tea?
like, what, 178 votes or something? Yeah. More than enough people, basically, to, I think, fill a guild, in fact. So, not a problem at all. We also need to do another Shadow Empire. Again, that's a game I just play. I'm not giving a shit about anyone else. Listen, it's Shadow Empire. Fucking, but they're doing a new DLC with increased politics. I kind of want to wait for that. And I have. So we're going to play some Soval, which is the Warhammer Fantasy game, the Warhammer Fantasy tabletop game. And so I've commissioned a pair of lovely, lovely Skaven waifus, of course. And I have Star Sector. I have the Star Sector thumbnail. Okay? I've got it. Chevron, would you ever play Battle for Middle-earth series? Oh yeah, absolutely. Probably. By myself? Probably at some point in a year's time. We could hurry it by funding it, basically, as with everything. But I do love those games, so probably. And Alien Isolation. Let's remember to add that in there. And it's well over halfway now, which is good. And I do have Star Sector. This is what we will be using as the Star Sector thumbnail, right here. Then I have a little cut of the game over to the side here, but I like how this turned out. I like this one. So we'll have it with a little bit of the game like off into the corner and over to the right-hand side there. But I like how this one turned out. I really like how this one turned out. I think I need to throw more work this artist's way.
Fire is the answer.
Because this one is really, really good and stupendously high detail too. Yeah, I like this artist. I think I'll need to find more excuses to get them. I'll need to find more excuses. Many, many more excuses. And, of course, Void War, which comes out in, I think, 15 days. So I think we'll play it when it's out, rather than do the demo. Because it's going to be out in 2 weeks anyway, so we might as well wait for the full release of the game, right? Yeah. We might as well wait for the full release in that case. So I am planning to play Void War as well. That'll be fun. Do have quite a lot of things planned up that I need to get through as well. And if anyone recognizes this character as well, this will be an interesting little test game to do too, which might do very well, possibly, and might do really poorly. We'll see. And damn it, but I should have done more Oblivion, because this thumbnail that White made for me is really, really good, but at the same time, it's Oblivion. Everyone's seen Oblivion. I don't think anyone is interested in Oblivion, honestly. God damn my vacation. If I didn't have to go to Germany literally the day after Oblivion launched, I could have used this thumbnail more, because it's a great fucking thumbnail. Damn it. Upsetting. Very upsetting. I've had 2 great white thumbnails ruined by vacations now, which annoys me. Like, this one too is really good. Damn, it's a really good thumbnail. I used it once. Fucking upsetting. Maybe we'll need to go back and revisit some of these games eventually. Upsetting. Upsetting. Hexy, hopefully it's modded Star Sector. Good waifu mods. Is there? Oh. I'll have to have a look at the mods and see what I can find. Mega Killer X, thoughts on the Horus hearsay leaks or Horus heresy leaks? Age of Darkness, eh? Ah, more. Is that more? Yes, more Horus Heresy stuff. I don't know. I don't love the Horus Heresy because I view it as a way for GW to basically double their setting and sell models for both whilst forbidding them to be used in each other. I don't like the business strategy surrounding it at all. Chevron, have you tried any of the BFME mods like Edain or Age of the Ring? Really amazing stuff, Alien Isolation. I have not, no. I've not tried any of the mods, so I don't know what kind of a modding scene there's around it. I'm assuming there is one, probably quite a bit too. Sky Oblivion will be soon enough out. If anything, I kind of want to wait for Sky Oblivion. Then I can use it. I'll just need to change like the icon a little bit. Have White redo the icon to Sky Oblivion. Then maybe use it, because I could use it then. Yeah, maybe. Because Sky Oblivion would be fun. Because Oblivion was cool as a remaster, but I don't know. There's something felt a little bit off about it in a strange way. Like, on the one hand, I was overcome with nostalgia, but I was also kind of thinking, like, okay, if we took the nostalgia bit out of it, would I still enjoy it as much? I'm like, maybe. Valimir, I started War Tales myself. Definitely grindy when you change gear tiers. Then you start overflowing mats and deleting entire enemy parties in one turn. Yeah, part of me recommends picking the set difficulty, but apparently the dynamic difficulty is even worse, so I don't know. And I gotta find a time to play the new Stellaris update too, because I've got this beautiful thumbnail for it with the Terran Federation as well. God damn it. I need to start hurrying through series before I get more ideas for more stuff that I'll never fucking complete. Poor Arch. Poor Arch. Still have this one too for U-Boat, which I need to play at some point. Maybe at this point I'll wait for the U-Boat expansion as well. That's an Unsinkable Tom reference there, by the way, in case you missed it. Arch does this to himself, he does. He admits it. He occasionally does this to himself. It happens. Sometimes Arch hurts himself in his confusion. Just how it is. Stellaris is 4.0 is awesome. Is it? Is it? I hope so. Yeah, so 4.0 is actually out now. Nice. God, Stellaris is successful, isn't it? Holy fuck. Recent reviews, 1,600. All reviews, 130,000. Fuck. That is a gold mine for Paradox, isn't it? My God. My word. That is a gold mine for Lum Lum. Lum Lum? What did chat... Oh, there it is. There's Lum Lum. I was wondering, chat suddenly mentioned Lum Lum, and I saw that, and my brain thought about it. The only gold mine Lum Lum likes is between people's feet. Right. I think we are now at an end of our Stamford Bridge cast, as I think I've gotten through all of the Streamlabs and talked about everything I want to talk about. And we'll have old Sargarunipoony back next month again, where we will finally see if women are stronger than men. Very important to know. Raided? As far as I can see, Rum Lum, the numbers have fallen. Are you sure? Yeah, I was at 1,000. Now I'm at 985. Lum Lum. I think your raid removed about 40 people from my chat. Oh, and the Solium Infernum game will be not next week, but I think the week after that again. I think we'll get Dry Bread, so we can have 3 players play Solium Infernum. That'll be fun. and then barotrauma as soon as I can nail Rim down to a day. But anyways, thank you for watching, chat. Thank you for your generous donations, as always. Thank you, Lumi, for yeeting 50 people. And I'll see you all again soon. Have a good night, chat.